So sadly, there were no bears in this week's episode of Card Fight Vanguard. I know bears are one of the things we come back to, but it just didn't happen this week. However, we did get to see that Claret Sword is now going to be a restanding Vanguard in shadows. This might be a little scary depending on where that support goes. So, yeah, we'll worry about that a little later. So, this week, it is tournament time, everybody. That is right. We saw the return of Team Nepom. Why do I remember that they're called Team Nepom? I can only assume the Cardfight Vanguard G Stockholm Syndrome is starting to set into play. But yeah, no, Rai, Mark, and Shin teamed up again. They wore the outfits they wore in those G flashbacks. So if you're a fan of that, that's great. I am so happy for all four of you. So, yeah, so they form a team. I know a lot of other people just assumed Tatsuya would become the third member of the team, but we got something much funnier instead, and he just gets sort of drafted into joining up Nanami and Tonori. I totally don't have these names in front of me right now trying to remember them. Oh yeah, no, he just kind of joins them up, and I really like that. It's just kind of a funny thing to see happen, especially for those of us who do real-life team tournaments. Sometimes you just grab that one guy whose team bailed on him at the last minute. So yeah, we saw that. Oh, and I love the joke where Shin's like, oh no, he's our friend. You don't stay on that side. And he's like in the middle. Like he's just trying to quell these two. That's good. I also like Nanami's bit in front of Card Capital. That's nice. I like the idea that she's kind of had this stable arc. That she's just kind of learning to care about people more and more as she interacts with people like Shin and sort of sees more of the kind of the reality of the world around her, and that whole bit was actually pretty funny. I feel so sorry for Tonori. It almost sort of feels like he's trying to help her, but like she's just like, no, I am still in tsundere mode, so that's what we do. The other scene I like that is, and this is probably the most sort of artsy scene in the episode, and it kind of impressed me because it's one of those bits you'd never get in an anime like this, but they did it. It's just Eska putting the picture face down, and the way the camera kind of lingers like that, I think is actually a very interesting director's choice. And I know that may not seem like much to a lot, and that's why it's such a big deal, because you don't normally get that. Like, sometimes you can really just get a lot from a moment of silence and stillness like that. So basically, like, you see her put the picture down when it's time for her to be boss Eska. It's time for her to be serious. It's time for her to run her tournament. It's time to see Shin get put through the ringer. And there's a few things you can kind of wonder. Maybe she kind of deep down knows that she should just give the card shop to Shin and feels bad she's got to do all this. Maybe she's conflicted if she thinks that's the right thing to do and like can't look at the remnant of the person she's trying to help. Maybe she feels bad that by making Shin go through all this, it's making Misaki worry, and she feels like that's hurting her promise to Misaki's parents. Like, there's a lot of little things you can infer from that just from her, like, just kind of staring at a face down photograph. And again, it might not seem like anything to a lot of people, but for those of us who spend way too much time analyzing this shit, it's a big deal. So yeah, so then we move on from there into the actual tournament itself. Rai is then like, oh, I'm gonna be a commentator. And she's just mad, and I don't know why. It was just really funny. Like, maybe because again, it's the stereotypical Rai's gotta put Shin through the ringer to make him stronger. We've seen that many times before in many different animes and stuff, and just even Western stuff as well, but I don't know, it just has so much energy to it. I kind of can't help but laugh. That being said, was I the only one who, when Esko walks out of the shower in her robe and Rai's there with the rose, was I the only one who half expected the music to turn into a little bam, chicka wow wow, chicka wow wow? Okay, yes, I know many of you are saying, this is a show targeted to kids, you idiot, but I mean, come on. Some of the shots in the show get a little hentai-ish. Anyways, so yeah, so then the card fight commences. There's a guy who looks way too old to be here sweating profusely in front of Nanami. I didn't like seeing that. I feel so scared for this child's safety. But yeah, they lose. We see a whole montage of characters winning. Tatsuya passes out. I don't know why that was also very funny. Just that whole bit where it's like, the pressure of winning got to him. That's good. The scene with them in the infirmary was a little clearly just to sort of get us to the end of the episode. And then, of course, the arrival of our antagonistic team, Dragon Vanity, or something like that. Those three guys show up, and they kind of had this goofy look to them. And of course, again, Eska hired them to do this. Everyone knew they were doing it, so sticking them in kind of the sort of goofy, sort of bad guy-esque outfits kind of makes sense. But I like that each one's reveal was kind of given its own originality and sort of made to kind of show off their personality instead of either all three at once or none at all or just the guy who's angry at Rive. I really like that sort of bit. I like that he's triggered by seeing Rive's apprentice, so rather he's supposed to take the costume off or not, he's just like, fuck you. I almost would have been happy if just he took it off, like really separating him. Seeing as this is the least memorable guy of all three of them, they really kind of got to do a lot to do a bit more with him, and I thought that was a nice start. So then their card fight begins, and we see Neo Nectar versus Aquaforce, a matchup that we will probably see when both these deck supports out. It's sort of funny watching penguins defend against knights who are boosted by flowers. That's really all I have to say about that. Then we get the appearance of Narukami Guy, who's all like, I am a nature lover and a Vanguard fighter. Something about that line kind of made me laugh. And I also like that he just does it because he's so fired up he takes the suit off and he's attacking and all that stuff. And then finally, of course, we end with Kanzaki crying like a baby. Oh my god, they're just treating him like a joke, and I respect the fuck out of it. Like, just crying profusely. Like, gives his weakness as a sin line, but with him doing the tears, it's just great. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Also, the bit where Rai goes to... Not Rai, Aquaforce Guy is just like, oh, that was embarrassing if you're a student of Rai Shindo. Something maybe to remember for next week. Maybe Shin's temper gets the better of him again and it fails him. I'm just saying, Shin does seem to react by having his... I don't want to use the term manhood, but like either adultness or strength or whatever power he has be put into question. I'm just saying, could be a thing to look out for. And last but not least, Claret Sword. It needs to be talked about. We'll just make that the Vanguard question. So yeah, all in all, I like this. It was fun. It was a cute little tournament episode. A lot of good humor all around. And a nice little build-up for what is coming. Because it actually felt kind of sad to see Nanami and crew lose. Maybe it's just because I like those characters. But they did a good job of building up in the episode that they would have another collision, and yeah, you can make the argument, of course they're gonna bait and switch it, but I still thought it worked for what they were trying to do. And anyways, as for the Vanguard question of the week, Claret Sword. I feel like just the fact that it's a restander and it's a shadow deserves attention. Do you think that it's gonna have some sort of added benefit? Because as of right now, banishing half your grade 1 lineup for just a restand in a deck that's already pretty aggressive feels sort of pointless. Now again, also, considering we're assuming G is coming up next, obviously that could potentially mean more time with Kanzaki, which could mean more support, so maybe this is just round 1, but of course you want new support to make people want to care about new decks. So yeah, just tell me what you think about that. I personally think Claret Sword will either have some sort of additional effect that helps the drop zone get loaded with grade 1s, or it might just simply be that other grade 1s that they don't want to reveal yet might actually have effects that trigger when they go to the bind zone, and we could see more of that as we go further. I think that could be really interesting. But tell me what you think about that. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week to see if Claret Sword does more stuff.